we are going to talk about the Swedish job market today. Um, for many of you, you are in a situation where you are either looking for jobs or looking for a way of sustaining yourselves, whether that is a job or studies. And this presentation is particularly about jobs and the Swedish job market. So what I can tell you from the beginning is that the recruitment process starts when companies see that there's a demand for employees and such. So when the economy is growing, obviously this is something you guys already know. There's a need for more employees, and people need to work, and the economy works well. So the employer is looking for someone to hire, and that's where you guys come in, depending on what qualifications you have and what you are interested in. So I will quickly, we have a little bit of Swedish in these. And one of the things that we do at Kuronova, sometimes we make our presentations in Swedish because it's good to have a knowledge about what the names are, okay? So as you can see, during a certain amount of time, you have seen how the yellow line is agriculture, production industry, service industry, private production, and public production, okay? So interesting facts about this is that there's approximately around 10 million inhabitants in Sweden. You have every fifth person is under the age of 20, the middle age is 41. And there are a lot of companies, around 1.2 million companies, and 4.8 million have an employment. So there's a high employment rate, but at the same time, it has changed during the course of the years. So in the job or the labor market, for example, at Arbetsförmedlingen, that some of you are accustomed to, or Platsbanken as they call it, there are around 450 professions described. These professions may vary. So, for example, you have everything from cleaners to CNC operators to people in finance, fintech, and such. So around 8,000 jobs are classified by the Swedish standard of job classification, and this is something you can also Google. As I said before in the beginning of this seminar, these are things that you can look up, and you can also watch this seminar again. So for example, one new profession that has come maybe the internet time, but the word influencer and the job profession influencer, how would you describe it to someone in 1992 or way back? You can please really comment if you have any tips. This would be fine. Or if anyone just wants to put off their mic and just give me a hint on what they would call influencers or how they would describe influencers in 1992. Does anyone have an idea? No?
Isn't it like advertising?
Yes, it's partially advertising. So influencers is that companies have realized that sometimes they don't need to go to to marketing agencies anymore and pay really expensive fees, because people usually buy what their friends recommend or what their mother, sister, golf buddy recommends, depending on who they know and who they follow in their everyday life. So everybody has a life outside of work, and some people are interested in different things, and you need to find someone that's famous within that field that will recommend it. So because of Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, now you have people that are given either genuine tips about products, or they are getting paid to do so. But these are people that regular people, regular working people, feel that they have a connection to. Either way, it can't be infatuation, that this is an idol that you want to be like, or someone that you really look up to as an inspiration for success and such and such. All right. So I'm gonna continue the next slide. Did everyone get that? Or what do you think? All right. So if you didn't get that, we can repeat it again. So we have different parties on the job force, and the various parties are very, very interesting. You have the union, the public employer, um, you have the private employer, you have the recruitment companies and the employment services. Does anyone know what the union is for? Please write in the comment section or in just raise your hand or turn on your mic.
The union is for the to have a safe work day or work environment.
Yeah. Yes. It's quite as you say, and I'm gonna get back to it very soon again. Um, so we have the union, and then the public employers. Who would you think that would be in this design?
Isn't that like the hospitals?
Exactly. So those are the hospitals, the municipalities, as they say in Swedish, kommunen, regionen, and everyone that's supposed to be public. And the public has a very high portion of employees when it comes to the Swedish job market. And then we have the private employers. Those are employers like, for example, IKEA, Elgiganten, other fintech companies. Sorry?
Can it be like Volvo cars?
Yes, it can be like Volvo cars because they do not particularly serve the public, even though that Volvo cars make the life of the public easier by creating cars that are safe and that are easy to drive to work. It is not a necessity for people at all times, but it still plays a major role in our life. So the private employers are the ones that really dictate how they want their employments to look like, what product they're putting on the market, and such and such and such. And this is a sector where you can be very broad, and if you have a specific degree or you have an idea about starting a company, you will probably go into the private sector anyways. The recruitment companies, and this is interesting for you guys that are in this process of looking for a job and a way to sustain yourselves. What do you think is the difference between recruitment companies and employment services?
Recruitment company is like manpower, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So they recruit for other companies because it might, for let's say Volvo feels like they would rather have someone else recruit for them, and then they will vouch the people that they present, and in that way save time. Yes. So we will get back to the employment services, but I will just start to talk about the union. And before I have this model in in English, unfortunately, but this is the Kuronova model. This is what we work from when we talk to our participants and when they come to us with their goals. So the main question that we ask, if you look at the arrow that's in blue with the different sections, you have who are you, what do you know, what do you want, and what is your job sector or your employment sector, and how can you create an action. Okay, so these are very important to us in order for us to know where you want to go with your goal when you are a member of either Stödmatchning or any other service that we give out here at Coronova's TV or Coronova Consulting. So you have, we go back to the situation, the insights about yourself and how you want to continue this, and also your future. For example, if you have a degree from your country before, is it possible for you to validate that degree in Sweden? Or do you feel like you have the time to create a new degree and study something else? Do you have the means for that? Do you have the energy for that? And do you have the insights about your strengths and your weaknesses and how you can work on those? And then we talk about your future, and also the goal for any person is to feel like their life is meaningful, whether they have a way of sustaining with work, studies, or maybe starting a business. Maybe you are from a country where there's an idea that hasn't come to Sweden yet, or you can do something that's already here, but in a different flavor, with a different idea, and then we will push you through that as much as we can. But it is all a recipe that relies on you as a participant to take responsibility for your goals and what you want to do. And we at Coronova are here for you as a support and as what we call a ball plank, meaning that you can throw a ball with ideas and we will reflect around it and see if it's possible to make it happen. But as I said again, the whole responsibility is actually on you as a participant, and your mindset is very important to remember. So there are a lot of union associations in Sweden. And unfortunately, the union has a very funny name in Swedish. I am not swearing today, but in Swedish we call it facket. And the union and their story is very interesting. So it's an association for workers within a field. So for example, if you are within tech, maybe there's a union for that. If you are within social work, there's a union for that. If you're a teacher, there's a union for that, and so on and so on. So here on the picture, you can see that you have the union for the teacher, you have the union for the engineer, the police, the doctors, people who work within metal, pharmaceuticals, journalists, electricians, what do you call it? Economic people. I lost the word. Also academic people. So because there's a broad market for people with academic credentials, you might need to be in a union where you know what is to be expected for you when you are looking for a job. Okay, so the history dates from the 19th century, where Swedish went from an agricultural society to an industrial society. And what happened, as it happened all over in Europe, was that workers had to work very, very long hours for very little pay, and companies were trying to make profit of the workforce that was existing, and people were living very poorly, and could not afford to say no to jobs. And that would lead to sickness and getting hurt at work, and so on and so on. So what you did was that people went together from a certain sector to decide that we as electricians, we vow to not take a minimum wage of, let's say, 300 kroner a day, if we're thinking about those days. We vouch to never take less than that. And when you are unified, that means that even if you have an employer that will come and try to pay you 150 kroner, they won't find someone that will do it for 150 kroner. So being in a union, you are very protected. And this is the same today. So all jobs have a minimum wage. And from that, it's a minimum wage that the union has that you can get paid more, but never less. Sometimes you can get paid less, but then you're not in the union. So the union fights for your right. And this is very important. If any of you starts a new job or is at a job right now, it's very, very important that you are part of the union, because whenever your employer has something to discuss or is making changes, you can actually call your union in order to get advice on how much you should ask for a raise, how much pay you should get from the beginning, how many hours you should get off, or how many sick days or vacation days that you should get. Is there anything until this moment that someone doesn't understand? I will take it again. Yes, no? Everybody gets it? Who here do you joined the union? I don't know who is employed, but have you ever joined a union or been a part of a union? Yes, okay. Have you joined a union in Sweden, or have you joined a union elsewhere that is not in Sweden? And what was your experience? Never. Okay. So does anyone want to share the experience of how it was to be in a union or not to be in the union? Do you have any thoughts after I explained this?
I think the union is very good. I have been in the union for more than like 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have been in Kommunal, in Handels, but now I am in the union.
Yes.
That's the union. That's the name.
Unionen.
Unionen. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the conditions to join a union, everybody can join a union. For example, if you are in between jobs, you could join a union for academics if you're an academic person. Everybody can join a union. You just need to find a union that matches you, that you think is um, interesting enough, right? So everybody can join a union, but you pay a monthly fee depending on what union you're joining. Um, and yeah, so just Google union or facket in Swedish. And if you find a union that you find interesting, I will always advise you to call and ask all the questions that you want asked. Ask them all the questions, because they are there to answer your questions and to make the actual sector that you're working in stronger and fair and actually doable for people. Yes? All right. So I'm going to the next slide. So a collective agreement, what does that mean? So I don't know if you guys have started work, but when you start work, it says that your employer has a collective agreement, and that's in relation to what I explained before. It regulates rights and obligation. It's different for different industries. Um, and basically, the agreement is described as a package of many, many agreements that were decided within the union towards the employer. So when you're hiring, or when an employer is hiring, it's always good to ask them if they are connected to a collective agreement, because in that collective agreement, you have all the rules and all the rights and obligations that you as an employee needs to follow, but also your employer needs to follow. For example, in a collective agreement, you will find how many vacation days you're allowed to have within a sector, between 3 weeks and 8 weeks. It depends on which sector you're in. If you would find a company that doesn't have the collective agreement, they are allowed to not be connected to it. But that is also something you need to take into consideration, that maybe your job situation might change very quickly when a company or an employer is not connected to a collective agreement. So the collective agreement also cites overtime, how much you should get when you work overtime, when you can be called into work. For example, let's say you work in a field where you are always on call. Is it possible for you to not be on call 2 days a week, or should you be on call 7 days a week? Is that reasonable, or is there something that your employer should try and change? So collective agreements are really important, and usually when you get hired, these papers sent to you from your hiring office, basically. So here are the rules about termination, your pay grade, your hourly rate, and how you should be working, how many hours you can work in a field or in a sector. It's very important to know that. These are things that you might not know when you are just new or haven't been here for a long time, and so on and so on. Any questions until here about the collective agreements and such? All right, I guess there's none. So I will continue. If there is, please, as usual, just comment. Great. So we're going to the public employers. So as I said before, they do public activities. So for example, the police is a public employer, but they are for the public. We pay taxes in order for them to keep the citizens safe. You have Arbetsförmedlingen. It's also a public employer, but also they do services for the public, meaning that they watch the unemployment rates and they try to make sure that people are getting jobs as soon as possible. Municipality, we live in Jönköping, and that's why they wrote Mullsjö kommun. It's very close. You can also have the schools can be public employers. Not all schools are public, but yes, they can still be public employers because they're doing something for the public, and also the hospitals. So these are very easy. So municipality, city council, state. Private employers. So you have IKEA, Volvo, as someone said before. Willys, where you buy your food, is also a private employer. Biltema, Hemtext, and Kuronova, for example, is a private employer. So Kuronova gets their what do you call it? They get a task from a public employer, such as Arbetsförmedlingen, and we provide that service to people from Arbetsförmedlingen. Okay, so staffing and recruitment, as we were talking before. So the large part of the Swedish labor has increased a lot in the recent years. Many get their first job through them. So staffing and recruitment, it can be Adecco, Lernia, One Partner Group, Montico, Max Competence, and such. All right. And these are I think some of you maybe have heard about these. Do you recognize these names? Yeah, okay. So these jobs all usually have a low entry job, meaning that you could start as very new within your field, and sometimes you can get something else. There are many, many recruitment companies, and as I said, you can always make a routine of every morning Googling what is new on their websites, or sign up into their systems, because whenever you sign into their system and you write your CV and your personal letter, whenever there's a job description that matches your profile, they will look into everybody that has the similar profile for the job requirement. I can also send you that it's very important not to forget to update those profiles. Let's say that you registered Adecco's profile for like a year ago and you think that they will see you. You have to remember that there are so many people that are registering in their system every day. So it might be good for you to maybe once a month if that's not often or whenever you can, just go in and update that profile. And it can be as easy as maybe writing a sentence differently so that your profile comes up and they see that there's been a change in your profile. And that is just a side tip. It's not something that everybody knows, but it's good to do that because it's very important to keep track on all the recruitment companies that you have registered in order for you to be relevant all the time. Do you have any questions about that or anything? No, maybe not. Okay, I'm going to the next one. So to be employed in staffing and what we call bemanning in Swedish, you are employed by the staffing company in general. So for example, companies like I would say Elgiganten, IKEA, they use Manpower or other staffing companies. And so you go in and you are hired or employed by Manpower, and Manpower lends you out to their customers depending on what qualifications that you have. You have often a better starting salary and average salary, and you work in different workplaces. So this might be great for some people, and for others, they think that this is a challenge because they want something that's more fixed. Now, there's nothing that says that it's not possible for you to stay at the same company for a longer time. Sometimes if you do a great job and the company has the means, they will look into if it's possible for you to stay and work for them. So let's say that Manpower hires you, and then your new employer, they hire you for IKEA, and IKEA realizes that, oh, Eva or Sarah or Benjamin is really great at this, and we want to hire them by our own and not pay a fee to a staffing company anymore for having this person within our system. They can hire you on a contract, and that contract can depend. It can be hourly or it can be more of a fixed situation. So to be recruited, you have to apply for the job. You interview with the recruitment company. So they do the first recruitment. And I don't know if you guys have done this before, but you know sometimes you have to do many interviews. So you apply through their websites. They do an interview with the recruitment company, and you do an interview with the recruitment company. And then after the recruitment company has done their job of choosing people they think are good, they present to the actual asking company, the hiring company. Okay, so Manpower will maybe interview 10 people and then realize that they want 3 out of those 10 people, and then they will present the 3 to IKEA. And then by then, after that, you get hired or employed by IKEA. So the job market, as we call in Swedish, arbetsmarknaden, is unfortunately 20% of it is visible labor market and 80% is a hidden market. Yeah, it's not only for the Swedish labor market, that's true, it might not. So 20% is visible labor market and labor market. So what we see on, for example, Platsbanken and Manpower and all these different companies that you apply for are what are visible. But in order to actually access the 80%, oh, why? I don't really know why. I think it's because most of the jobs that you get are through connections. Because people know each other who knows someone, you can always get headhunted or recommended by someone. And you can also hear about a job opening much earlier than when it's put out. Even though companies put out the jobs on the sites that are necessary, 80% of them are actually hidden. And this is the hard part for someone that is not from Sweden. Okay? why that is because people that are not from Sweden or that haven't lived here long, they haven't had the time to make new connections and have that social connections that will make them more attractive, or that will make that they can hear about these jobs. So one of the key things with job searching is, besides sitting and applying on the computer as often as you can, yeah, they usually know. So I'm trying to, like, if I look at two sides, it's because I'm watching the comments on my right and I'm looking at you guys on my left. So yes. So one of the things is also to find settings where you can get new connections. And it's not all about getting new connections within the work field. So you won't only go to, let's say, job fairs and everything, even though those are really, really great because they're specific and you have a specific target and a specific purpose, which is really great. Sometimes you need to connect, let's say by joining a sports club, let's say by joining a hobby club. Now during Corona, this is a little bit harder. But let's say that the restrictions, um, let's say that the restrictions are gone for Corona in a couple of months. We don't know what the prognosis is right now, but I think that it's always good to prepare yourself for when things are better. So let's say the restrictions are gone. That means that if you have an interest for, I don't know, golf, if you have an interest for crafts or being handy or sports or the gym or whatever, you need to connect with people that have that same interest, because what you need to remember is that the people that are working a 9 to 5 job, they have hobbies and interests outside of their job. So if you have a good session with someone that is great at badminton and you're like, oh yeah, this was a really great match, thank you for teaching me the, I don't know how to play badminton, I'm just giving you an example, thank you for showing me how to throw the ball, for example. And then you start talking about what you guys do and what your experience is, or maybe you share a funny story about your old job, and then they will ask you, well, what do you work with now? And you could just say, oh, that's very interesting that you ask, because I am actually new in Sweden, or I've had a hard time finding a job. This is what I, that person not moment, but that person knows someone, and maybe they're taking the famous Swedish fika, and they know someone that is looking for someone. They will remember the guy that they, or the girl that they played badminton with. So it's really important to get yourself out there, even though you don't have the language with you. Swedish people are okay with English, and it is our second language, so you can still be understood, even though it's harder. I just say, just do your best to try and know new people all the time. And also call. Hi, my name is this and this and that. I'm wondering what you're doing. Follow these companies on social media to see what their plans or their prognosis is. What is it that they are interested in? For example, if you see a company that you know is going toward a more green way of doing their business, and you have that kind of knowledge, maybe you will send in your application and say that, hi, I follow you on LinkedIn, and I've seen that for the next 4 years you want to put effort into reducing your global footprint, or whatever, your green footprint. So in that sense, you have a way of coming into that 80% that is hidden. It's not only in Sweden, actually, it's everywhere. But right now we are in Sweden, and it's good to know. But don't give up. Even though those 20% are out, don't give up on them too. You just need one person to say yes from each category. Um, Sorry, I need to read this comment because I can't see it. I think it's even harder than I am 100% Swedish because I have some problems to take whatever job there is. So do you mean that you have difficulties taking any job in general, or do you mean I'm trying to.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because I have some trouble in the head. Handicap.
Yeah.
Handicap in the head.
Yes.
Kind
So
of.
if you have any health difficulties that are prohibiting you from being able to take a job, or because let's face it, not everyone will get the job that they want or within the field that they want. That is reality of the job market in general. But if you have any of those, you need to speak to the right people around it. So, for example, if you speak to your handler at Arbetsförmedlingen, there are some systems into place for someone that has a handicap or some extra difficulties that are depending on health issues in general. But yes, there are some people that feel like they cannot take any job, and I understand that. If you're an engineer and you come and they ask you to come in at a job at low entry level, that is going to affect your confidence, and it's going to affect for the future, and so on and so on. But sometimes you have to be strategic. It's better for you to be on the workforce and have experience on the workforce within the country until you get that job. Your knowledge is not going to run away from you, but the experience that you might get from being in a place where Swedish is spoken, where you know about the rules, where you learn about social codes, is very, very important. All right. So yes, it says that the market that is visible, and it is Platsbanken, recruitment websites, municipalities websites, and the hidden market is go through social media, personal contacts, websites, right? So, for example, let's just go to this one. Some useful tips when looking for a job in the Swedish labor market or job market. Map the companies in your region. It's very important. You can't just wait for the jobs to show up. So if you know that there's a field that you want to break through in, you don't necessarily have the requirements maybe, or you do, but the first thing that you do is map the companies in your region. It's just like when you are going to a destination. When you sit in your car or when you're sitting on the bus, you do type the address or whatever on Google Maps. You have to do the same with the companies that you want to work for. Use your contacts and networks, and that is also a way of mapping your contact and networks. For example, let's say that you're new in Sweden or you've been here for a while. Now you have contacts from different areas and different job sectors. You can still make a list and try to connect them. So let's say someone works in finances, but you guys met in a setting where they're talking about tech or technology in general, and you want to work with fintech or financial technology, as they say it. Maybe you could ask that person, hello, I know you're interested about this specific topic, but we met in this setting. Is there anyone, or did you notice anyone in that setting that we were in that has the knowledge and the any interest or something interesting going on? It doesn't always have to be a job, even though it's very important. I know that people really want a job, but sometimes you have to go the other way around. It doesn't always have to be a job. So maybe you just need to get in there and get the knowledge and information about that sector that you otherwise wouldn't get if you wouldn't have made that contact. Apply for a quality job. High activity, and customize your application documents according to the position. So apply for a quality job. That means a job that you feel that you're qualified for, but also do it in a way that just brings you pride anyways. High activity means that you need to be very efficient when it comes to looking for jobs. So you need, some people use what do you call it, their routines when they're unemployed, and life happens. Just, sometimes you wake up and you have to do laundry, you have to go work out, you have to pick up the kids. Oh, you forgot to send this email, you forgot to call this and this people. And I know that for some that don't have papers, or that have a very amount, like different municipalities to contact or different companies to contact, there are many phone calls that you need to do within your day. But it's also important to make to create a routine where you know that at least if you know that you're going to have a busy day, you know that 2 hours of that day is high functioning job searching. You need to put that energy and you need to block everything out, right? And in order to break through, you need to customize your application documents according to the position. Um, and this is very good because a lot of people maybe might follow a what do you call it, a pre-written um, pre-written text. Let's say that, because I don't have the word right now at the top of my head. In Swedish, it's called mall. So you follow a pre-written application that you found on Google or something, and that's a great help if you feel like it's difficult reaching people. But also you have to, in your customized documents, not only your CV. Sometimes you don't need to be writing about that job where you were able to sell ice cream, for example, because it's not relevant for the job that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a job that says that's like a seller, a salesperson, maybe selling ice cream might be a good relevant thing to say, because they know that you started early or you've done that before, you know how to meet customers. But if you're applying for a accountant job, maybe that job might not be relevant, in order, because you don't want to send a CV that's super long. Even though you have it, if you have a long CV that's relevant to the job that you're applying, you're of course supposed to send that. And that's the same with the personal letter. The personal letter is also very important in the Swedish job seeking process. Um, because the personal letter should not only be about what you have accomplished, but how you have accomplished it. The personal letter is very important. So, for example, if you are a person that is very driven and goal oriented, you can not only write that you are driven and goal oriented, you can say, I am goal oriented, and show some examples of when your goal orientation or your drive has brought you success. So everything that you write, you need to connect it to something that the employer will see and try to fit into their organization. That's why it's also very important to read about the company before you apply. So go into their website, go into their social media, look at the people that they follow, and also just try to see how you would fit into that company and give examples of that within your personal letter. So let me just see, because I saw that you guys, someone sent messages. I think it was something about the personal letter being important. Yes. An important thing is personal letter which you send specific to company, not to many companies at the same time as the CV. Exactly. So your personal letter needs to be specific and also created for the company that you're going. And social media, Google, and all of that. You also need to remember that employers are frustrated by the many applications that are sent at random, not directed at all particular companies, at the particular companies. Those applications deserve as much response as the direct mail in the mailbox. Okay, so let me just see how many slides that we have and the time slot that we have. Okay, so I made it just in time, even though we had some late. A late start. So yes, so you need to remember, as much as you want to be employed, they also want to employ someone that matches whatever they are creating. it's very important that you feel like what you are offering matches what the company is offering, and what they are offering is something that you want, because only then will it be a great match. So back to the Kuronova model, that was very they had a long discussion. I've heard the story about our model, and they were really trying to simplify the idea of what Kuronova wanted to do with our participants, and it is to actually create goals that are achievable. And it all begins, as I said, it all begins with you, the participant. So who are you? What can you do? What do you want? And what is your market? And then just go into action to reach your goal. But in order to do that, you need to understand and know your situation. You need to have insights on how to handle and create a situation that will give you success. And then your future. And your future might be studies, work, and don't underestimate the ability to also create something for yourself as a company or as a service. You can also do that if you have something that you see is missing in the market. So, what is your job market? And describe your experiences with a verb, right? Not a title. Does anyone know what I mean with that? Describe your experiences with a verb, not a title. Anyone? No? Verb is an action, exactly. So maybe instead of being, I am a coach, I could be like, I work with motivation, for example. I work with motivation and motivating people into doing something. Yes, you are active, for example. If you're active, yeah, you could tell people, yes, I am an active person, or I am active with work. So this is something that you do, but not the title, because the title can vary from different times. So, as you say, we do not have to be perfect to do a job. It is enough to look at those have jobs to understand it. And this is very important. You will need to remember that you are human, and that when you are applying for a job, even though there are many things in the way for you, because you might not have the language, you might not have the credentials, sometimes you just need to come into the job at entry level and learn as you go. Don't try to be perfect on your CV, because let's face it, if you're not speaking the language in the country, it doesn't mean that you don't have as high chances, but it means that it's a roadblock that's different to others. So you need to find the thing that makes you valuable for the company that's going to hire you, instead of seeing it as a roadblock. And sometimes, as you know, some people that have jobs, and this is, I think it's an ironic quote, but some people that have jobs are not super great at it, and some people that have jobs are really great at it. And that's the people that are great at their jobs, that's where you want to bring your inspiration, because that does not mean that they haven't had roadblocks, but it means that they've used tools to find a way to make it possible for them to succeed at their job. Yes, I think this is actually the last slide. And yes, I just want to say thank you for being here with me today. And I am opening up for questions. Any questions? All right, let me see. I see a lot of messages coming in. No. So thank you. Yes. All right. So if you have any questions about how you would do that, how you would map the companies within your region, or how you would do anything regarding everything that I've talked about today, you need to talk to your assigned coach and see if they can help you, because I understand that you guys watching this seminar are everywhere within Sweden, which is really great. But if you have questions, just bring it up tomorrow, not tomorrow, but to your coach, and tell them that you listen to this seminar or that you have thoughts about these questions that occur during the seminar, and that you would love to know how to map the companies. It's important to know that some of the coaches, and that is part of the job that we do. We might talk to you about how to do things or give you tips, but as I said before, the responsibility is within yourself. So it's really, really important. So bring it up and see how you and your coach can work together in order to meet your goals. I will try to have more English seminars. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. And thank you for your patience. And if there are any questions, email your coach, or you can also email me, and I will see if I can answer your questions. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Oh, bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will say hello to Fuat.